A little bit about Cesslock. We are the largest locally owned financial institution in San Luis Obispo. We've been around for over 80 years. Our members are local. The money stays local. We're very happy and proud to serve the Central Coast. We offer these presentations monthly, these financial education webinars. So please continue to attend, share with your neighbors, your friends, your family. Next month, we have a really good presentation. It's going to be discussing elder fraud and cybersecurity. We see scams left and right. Everybody's getting those text messages, those phone calls, those emails. And unfortunately, our elder population falls victim to it more than others. So we're going to be having a great webinar on that topic. But that should be it for any housekeeping items. You can see my email address right there on the screen. Again, if there's any questions that do come up, if you want to connect with me after the webinar, please feel free to send me an email at the email address listed there on the screen. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into our presentation on raising financially strong kids. Continuing on with our celebrations of National Credit Union Youth Month. All right, kids and money. For most of us, for most of our adult life, you know, we've had to manage the stressors of spending and budgeting and saving money. And now comes the fun part for those of you that are parents in the audience. You got to start teaching, if you already haven't, your children how important it is to be smart with their money. You know, in all honesty, I don't think that you know, there's enough taught about money and financial literacy to children. You know, I think it's part of the reason why we have, you know, young adults that are saddled with more debt than they can possibly afford. And I'm not talking about our student loan debt. That's something I'm you know, completely separate. You know, it's the young 20s somethings that are struggling with debt and struggling to manage their money. And it's because we're not talking about it enough at a young age, and it's not being taught enough in schools. According to a 2020 article by Next Generation Money, only half of states require that schools learn about personal finances, or that students learn about personal finances in school. So, you know, you as a parent may really be their only source of education when it comes to money. You know, starting to teach these lessons at a young age and continuously teaching them into their teenage years will help your children build smart money habits. And hopefully it sticks with them for the rest of their lives. Hopefully some of the things that you've taught them begin to be ingrained with them as they get into their, you know, young adult, older adult lives. It's really never too early or too late to begin having these conversations. This topic is something that's very top of mind, you know, for me. I have a 2-year-old at home. You know, among the many topics I'm going to need to be discussing with her, you know, money is something that, you know, I hope to begin teaching right away when that time does come. One last stat I want to share here. Only 26% of 13 to 21-year-olds say that their parents taught them how to manage money. So again, stressing the importance of how critical of a role you play in talking to your kids about healthy financial habits and ensuring that you help prevent any future financial failures. Sticking with that theme, you know, you as parents, caregivers, grandparents, you name it, really have the power. You harness all of the power. You know, in a recent study of millennials by USA Today, 58% of those millennials interviewed, cited that their parents' advice or examples shared by their parents were most influential in how they handled their own finances. You know, so it speaks to that you have the power and you have the ability to really make some lasting changes with how your kids handle money. I think it's important that, you know, parents start slowly, gradually giving their kids some freedom over the finances. And by the time they reach their teenage years, you know, with the bank of mom and dad, their mistakes will have lower consequences, but the early lessons can be incredibly meaningful. And there's one thing that I always kind of like to mention, especially as it relates to parents and talking with our kids about money. You know, even at times, us as adults, you know, we can feel a little insecure or we can lack some of the knowledge of money management or finances. However, you all are kind of living proof of making it, right? You depending on what your situation may be, whether you own a home or you're renting or you're paying a car payment, or you have an income coming in and you're paying your bills and the lights are on, the food's on the table. Again, that's living proof that you're kind of doing it and you're making it. Your kids aren't coming to you for advice on long-term investment strategies and the stock market. But they're coming to you with some basic everyday financial questions and everyday financial decisions that you can share and discuss with your kids. Something as simple as shopping around for a new car, or saving for a family vacation, or weighing a specific purchase at Target or Costco. These are some basic things that, if you involve them in their conversations, are going to go a long way. The same thing can be said for the not so fun things. Maybe you've made some money mistakes in the past. Don't be afraid to share those money mistakes with your kids, within reason. But the whole premise is really, you have the power, you have the ability to begin speaking with your kids and involving them in conversations, being transparent to a level that you're comfortable with, of course. But again, you really harness that power to have those conversations with your young children, your tweens, and your teenagers. One important lesson that really should be taught at a very young age, that money doesn't grow on trees. One of the biggest lessons that we can teach our kids is the value of a dollar. At a young age, especially at a very young age. These next few slides are going to kind of focus on the younger side, and then we'll progress into tweens and teenagers. But at a young age, many kids don't understand that money is a finite source. They see us whip out our debit card at an ATM, and money comes out. They may not understand that there's a balance there that's associated with that. They see us pull out our credit cards and they swipe it, so there's no necessarily exchanging of money. So it's tough for them to maybe comprehend that concept. So, it's really important that we teach them that, whether it's on a credit card or, a debit card, or using your debit to pull money out of the ATM, that, money is kind of a finite source. It's not unlimited. And it's important to teach them that, money is earned by working, and it must be spent responsibly. A generation ago, it was common for, American teenagers from all walks of life to do some type of paid work while in school or over the summer. It could have been stocking shelves, delivering groceries, working in mom or dad's office, babysitting, tutoring, you name it. But as recent as, maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, especially, having kids work while in school, was kind of part of growing up. Things change, or have changed nowadays. About 37% of 16 to 19-year-olds work. That's down from 59%. So a 22% decrease since 1989. So today teenagers are spending a little bit more time, in school and working on other unpaid activities to prepare for college or bolster their application. And not to say that that's a bad thing, but it speaks to that overall theme of, there's maybe a lack of understanding that, working hard and spending time working, and there's the return of money and finances. So, if having a regular job during the school year isn't practical for your teenager, or they're even too young to maybe earn money through a job or on their own, let's think about potentially a structured set allowance. It can be tied to chores or pitching in around the house. I know that's what happened with me as a kid. The more that I cleaned around the house, whether it was cleaning the living room, vacuuming the house, doing dishes, taking out the trash, mowing the lawn, you name it, there was some type of compensation tied to that. And I think that was a good thing, because it helped me, and it will help others understand the connection between kind of work and pay. Let children earn more by performing extra jobs, or maybe going above and beyond what their traditional chores are. Maybe they only take out the trash and they empty the dishwasher every day. They do their own laundry, but maybe they started, washing your car or mowing the lawn. You can increase their salary or their, quote unquote allowance, by a couple of dollars. And it doesn't have to be a lot. That's the thing. It's whatever, financial commitment you're willing to make. It could be as little as $5 or $10 or as high as $20 or $40, whatever that might be. But it helps make a connection between work and pay. The amount of money that is compensated can reflect the amount of money your child needs for each week. Say food or transportation or clothing. Kind of give them at the start, give them the freedom to spend the money as they wish, and don't act as a backstop. If at the end of the week they've completed all their chores, they get their $20 on Friday and they come back Saturday and it's all out, that's a great way to have a conversation around what they spent their money on and helping them understand, that there's some discipline that's needed as it relates to budgeting. This system is really great. It provides a few different pluses. It helps them understand, that there's an arrangement between work and pay. It's easy to keep track of. You can check their work, and it creates a way of responsibility for your teenagers, whether that's responsibility for their tasks at home or responsibility for the allowance and money that they're making. And it really opens up great dialogue between you and your kids. You can talk about jobs, you can talk about careers, you can talk about pay, you can talk about overtime, all of these themes that will become important as they get to working age. It's funny, CESLOC sponsors a program at schools called Bite of Reality. And high school students are assigned a profession as an adult, and they're assigned financial logistics like a salary. They're also assigned kids. They're not allowed to take advantage of family babysitting. They have to actually pay for childcare. Again, they're given a salary, and they're supposed to go around a bunch of tables that include transportation and grocery shopping and housing, and really get through a month of budgeting based off of the pay that they're making with some of the financial obligations like having kids. And they have these big dreams, but when they get to the end of the table, or the end of the project or the program, some kids are using mass transit and cutting their own hair and eating a lot of macaroni and cheese. And not that there's anything wrong with those things, but it truly is a good wake-up call into the quote unquote real world. Where the refrigerator isn't magically filled with food and you have to make tough decisions about what's a necessity and what's a luxury. It gives them a firm understanding of money coming in for the work that I've done and the job that I have, and money going out. I want to wrap this up with really saying the theme here is to teach kids that money isn't unlimited and money isn't a thing that grows on trees and is readily available. There is a give and take with your money. You have to work in order to earn money. And the more you work, the more money you may earn. And if you spend that money, it's kind of all gone. You have to wait until your next pay period. And if you want to earn more money, you can either work more or change your job or your career or whatever that might be. So again, recapping with that, it's great to talk about it's great to talk to your kids about working and receiving an income, and exchanging kind of an allowance for some of the work that you do is a really great place to start. Let me ask, does anybody in the audience give their kids kind of an allowance now, based off of some of the work that they do? I know I got an allowance. It was structured a little differently. I would get it maybe twice a week, and I could buy, kind of food with it or whatever I needed, but it was tied to, mowing the lawn and, picking up after the dogs in the backyard and, emptying the dishwasher and things like that. So it looks like we have someone chiming in that, yes, they give their kid an allowance now, and it is tied to chores. If they don't do their chores, they don't get paid. And that's great. Again, that's kind of teaching kids this theme. That's perfect. Okay, using playtime. This is another good opportunity with some of those younger kids. So we'll get another comment here. We call it a commission. Pay is based off of tasks completed. An allowance would be a set number they expect per week / month. So there you go. That's, yeah, folks can handle it differently how they want. But that's great because then it also opens a dialogue up on this concept of commission. If they have a job like a sales job that gets commission pay, you can have those conversations. And it goes back to exactly what I was sharing. The more that you work, maybe the more money you get paid. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So for some of our parents in the audience that have younger kids, maybe like myself, playtime is a great opportunity to help kids kind of understand spending and handling money. And this isn't just, specialized just for the younger kids. I'll share some examples of how maybe your teenagers using playtime can go a long way for money management. But nowadays I feel like most toys have a cash register or other type of pretend payment. My little girl has a kitchen that has a card reader and a cash drawer. So even at 2 years old, she's getting kind of this exposure to a credit card reader, which is crazy to me, but it's there. And this, the concept of kind of handling money can be taught right then and there. When they're making you this tea or serving you breakfast in the pretend kitchen, ask them how much things are. Or if it's the other way around, if you're in the pretend kitchen making tea or serving them, breakfast or whatever it might be, ask them that, okay, now that breakfast is over, it's time to pay. Ask them how much certain items are. Of course, we don't expect them to have the exact price and maybe handle it the right way. But again, these healthy habits are a great place to start and implement in your kind of day-to-day play structure. You can even use, play money or fake coins or even real coins if you have some. And it's a great opportunity to understand the concepts of handling money. And there's an exchange of payment for goods that are being provided. We have, a change drawer, and when we're, playing at home with my daughter, we'll use coins as a method of payment. My daughter comes to the grocery store with us, and she kind of sees this concept. So really, it's instilling this good behavior with handling money at a very young age. For some of the older kids that you may have, there's great board games. Monopoly is another great example. I think we can all remember the frustration of, maybe an unexpected bill or having to pay rent if you landed on a property that had hotels or something on it with the game of Monopoly. But we remember the joy of coming around, passing go, like it was almost payday, or the unexpected, hey, you got a return of X amount of money when you had community chest or chance or whatever it might have been. But these, the game of life is also another really healthy board game as it relates to finances. It kind of simulates a person's travel through life, early adulthood, retirement, college, jobs, you name it. But those two board games really do focus on the handling of money and, those concepts of having to like pay utilities. And those are really, really great, fun, interactive games to play with your kids. And they open up organically conversations around handling finances. And again, it's really just a good opportunity for kids to develop some healthy habits around money use. You spend quality time together. I know sometimes it's not so quality. I remember playing Monopoly with my family. I have 3 older brothers. It got very heated and it was very competitive. But again, there was a person that was the banker, and you exchanged cash and exchanged money, and you understood having to pay for electricity and all of that stuff. So it does develop healthy habits around your finances. So take advantage of some of the playtime that you have in front of you, and it also is quality time with your kids. So oops, hold on. There we go. Don't be afraid to visit a branch, especially this week, as I mentioned. Bring them into the financial institution that you use. It's a great opportunity to open up an account for one of your kids or a checking account. It's a good introductory into saving money and managing money. The great thing about some of these accounts, there's no overdraft fees, there's no insufficient funds fees, there's no minimum balance requirements. So it's really a healthy alternative for your kids to be learning how to manage their own money by having a real card. There was a study done in 2022, and it was by the University of Kansas, and it talked about how children who have early access to savings accounts accumulate more savings assets like 401ks and IRAs than those who didn't have a savings account as a kid. And so it really speaks to, at a young age, you can really begin to start this important lesson of saving money and the value that that will provide for you. It really encourages them to set some realistic savings goals, like putting money aside to purchase a new gaming console or a smartwatch. They can enjoy the feeling of saving money towards a goal. This also exposes them to how to complete transactions and conduct business. I don't know about anybody else in the audience, but I know that there's a lot of real world experiences not taught in school that kids can get exposed to, helping them later on in their life. Going to a branch, a financial institution, and conducting business is one of those experiences. Hand up, I'm a millennial, I'm an elder millennial, but writing a check has been something that, my generation especially hasn't done a lot of. And I'll never forget a few years ago having to write a check, right? I think I wrote a check maybe 6 or 8 months ago, and it was almost like I forgot how to do it just because it's not top of mind anymore. But there are other things that you can do in a branch that can expose your kids on how to conduct certain transactions day to day and prepare them for that real world when it comes. And you can do that again by visiting a branch. For those who opt to go, maybe you have some kids who are flirting with going to college right now, or they're juniors or seniors in high school, and college is soon fast approaching. They may want to start building their own credit. You may want them to start building their own credit and getting their own credit history. Opening up a credit card for them is a great way to help do that. That's a good opportunity to have a conversation around credit, making sure that they're not carrying a balance, that they're paying their balances off in full, not carrying any revolving debt balances. There are some great credit cards out there for college students. Make sure you kind of do your research and find the best one for you. But taking them to a branch, engaging in conversations with member serving employees is a great way to get them to learn a little bit more about those finances. So as kind of a follow-up from the "you have the power" slide pretty early on in the presentation, you also are going to set an example for how your kids use money. We all, have some learned behaviors that we picked up from our family, some good, some not so good. How we handle conflict, or how we deal with stress, or how we handle certain relationships. And that relationship with money is no different. How your kids see you using money now is how they're probably going to use money later on as well too. So try to be a good example for your kids. I'm really learning that process now. My 2-year-old is at that stage where she mimics everything I do and I say. I need to be very cautious, especially when maybe driving in a car, with some of the language I use. And it speaks to, again, this specific slide, in that, we're the example for our little sponges, and we need to make sure we're setting a good example, especially as it relates to our money. Instill good money habits by limiting some of the, impulse spending, or some of the shopping sprees that we may go on, or how, influencers and marketing, not force us, but encourage us to make purchases. Let's limit how much we're doing this in front of our kids. Set good examples by maybe using coupons or sticking to a shopping list when you go to the store. When you're at the store and you're deciding between certain products, and one is cheaper than the other, and that's your justification for making that purchase, explain that to them. The good example I always give is, there's a lot of times when there's cleaning products, and it's a big name brand cleaning product versus the store brand. They all have the same ingredients, but one is $3 or $4 more expensive than the other when they serve the same purpose and have the same outcome. These are conversations we can have with our kids, allowing them, to make the best purchase for their finances. A trip to the grocery store can provide, endless lessons in bargain hunting and again, the price comparison, like I just shared. Show your kid, 2 boxes of cereal that are similarly priced, but there's, a difference, and explain that to them. It's a great way to introduce the concept of getting the same value for less money. Use technology. This is something that, is different for a lot of parents out there. Some of the things that maybe we didn't have, growing up. It can be a really fantastic tool for teaching your kids about money. There's a lot of apps out there and even games out there that are designed just for them, making learning about finances fun and interactive. As this kind of digital landscape becomes a bigger part of our lives, it's essential to teach kids about responsible online financial behavior. It's not just about paying games. It's about, making smart choices in the digital world. There's a few different examples of age appropriate apps that are out there. There's one called PiggyBot. It's an app that helps kids track their allowance, set savings goals, and understand the joy of watching their money grow. There's iAllowance. It's perfect for teaching kids budgeting. It allows parents to set up regular allowances and assign chores with corresponding rewards. So this helps meet that younger generation who is so phone driven and digital driven. When I was growing up, obviously there wasn't that. I got, my allowance was paid in kind of cold hard cash, or my payment for my chores was paid in cash. And I didn't necessarily have a bank account at the time. So I was just kind of keeping money in a drawer in my room. Those days are kind of gone now, and kids maybe have their own bank accounts or they're storing money in different areas. And these type of apps help kind of meet your kid where they're at, and helps them understand, a little bit more about setting savings goals, budgeting, seeing that there's payments that are going to be coming, in 2 weeks from now or on the 15th or whatever it might be. I think another big portion of technology that we need to touch on is with kids and kind of the safety side of it as it relates to finances and technology. It's up to you to, set appropriate online boundaries, discuss the importance of not sharing some of their personal information online, including financial details, like their bank account login or information. Teach them to recognize secure websites when making online purchases or transactions. Show them how to use online resources for financial research and education. Let's say your child wants to buy a new video game online. Take this opportunity to guide them through the process, explaining the importance of secure websites, checking reviews, understanding the costs involved. This not only helps them make informed choices, but it lays the foundation for responsible online financial behavior. By integrating technology into financial education, you're not just keeping up with the times, but you're leveraging tools that speak your child's language. It's about kind of combining the excitement of this new digital world with the essential lessons that will serve them in this kind of evolving world of finances. Does anybody out there use any of these apps on here, or do they use a different app for kind of tracking finances with their kids? I know college students have a plethora of budgeting options available to them. So if you have maybe an older college student in your life, there's a couple different apps. It's called You Need a Budget. It's the acronym YNAB, You Need a Budget. And it's a great way for parents, if you're like depositing money into your college student's bank account. They link this app to their bank account, and it helps them budget for, food for the week and laundry for the week, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of really great applications out there for younger kids and older kids that will help them teach the framework of budgeting and spending money safely and wisely. So this one says, we use every dollar, a Dave Ramsey app. Yeah, that's a great one. Making sure that your funds have a purpose. There's a ton of different trains of thought out there on budgeting and decreasing debt and things like that. And I know Ramsey has his philosophy on it. And so the opportunities that are out there to use technology can go a really long way. And nowadays, your financial institutions app, whether it's like your Cesslock or your Chase or Wells Fargo or whoever you belong to, they have like their applications have come such a long way as well too. You can see your spending in specific categories. You can track your credit score. You can, filter by, eating out and your car. Sorry, whatever that might be. So make sure you're taking advantage of some of your financial institutions' offerings as well too with their mobile banking app. But that's a great one. Thanks for sharing. So here's another one that I wish I could pull it up. I unfortunately couldn't find the video, but who remembers getting their first paycheck? And if you understood what was on it, like I'll admittedly raise my hand, and I'll never forget getting my first paycheck and thinking, I worked 20 hours. I was making, back in the day, what was it, $4 or $5 an hour? Like, why does my hours worked and pay not equal the same thing? And it's because I, at the time when I was very young, didn't have anyone teaching me about the difference between my net and gross income. And I don't know if there's anybody else in the audience that remembers kind of their first paycheck or has had an experience with their kids around getting their first paycheck now. But it's important that we begin having these conversations with your kids as they start to get to an age where they're receiving a paycheck. What do you mean I'm not getting the same amount of money for the hours worked versus what's in my bank account or what's in my hand with cash? What are these deductions from my paycheck and what do they mean? It's really important, at a young age to help teach your kids about, what's on their paycheck and explaining these deductions, certain taxes if they're applicable, Social Security or insurance if it's applicable, obviously depending on the age, depending on the state, depending on a few different things, your deductions may differ. But when they get their first paycheck, sit them down and go through some of their line items and explain what they are. If you're willing and able to share your paycheck, because I'm sure your paycheck, maybe it has stuff for health insurance, maybe it has your retirement, maybe it has, Social Security, whatever it might be, show them your paycheck and help them understand what some of these deductions are. None of this is taught in the schools. At least I know it wasn't taught when I was a kid. I'm sure it wasn't taught for you all as well too, if you're a parent in the audience. And I don't think it's taught now. I do presentations to to teenagers and young adults. And we just did this specific presentation, decoding their first paycheck. And a lot of it is so new and foreign to them. And it's important because if you think you're getting, your gross income, let's say it's $200 because you worked that amount of hours and you only receive 180 of it or 140 of it, kids or teenagers may make purchases on a credit card or something with the assumption that they're receiving $200 when they're only getting 150. So now they've made a purchase for 200, thinking that's what they're going to get paid. And they may be short now on their credit card payment or their statement payment because they didn't get that amount of money, because they didn't understand the difference between gross and net. So that's why it's really important. We all know that during budgeting, you budget for your net income, not your gross, because there's a huge difference depending on your salary level. So have those conversations with kids at a very young age on what their paycheck means, what gross versus net means, what some of these deductions are, and stress the importance of how essential some of these deductions are, like your 401k. It's also a good opportunity to engage in conversations around, when they're on their job hunt. Maybe they get out of college and they're they're searching for jobs, and how important benefits are to a job. Pay obviously goes a long way. You want to make a lot of money, but having good benefits is just as important at times. Are you getting medical coverage? Are you getting dental? Do they have a 401k? Is there a match? These are all things that are deducted from your paycheck, and you can begin to have these conversations with your young adult to identify what benefits are provided through certain employers. Kind of speaking of the same theme, be your kid's 401k. Obviously, at a young age, it's tough for them to have their own retirement account. It might sound strange, but if your kids start getting a regular stream of income, no matter how large or small, help them save for the future by matching what they save. A lot of us may have, deductions from our paycheck for our 401k or IRAs or whatever. Our employers provide a match. Maybe it's, dollar for dollar, maybe it's 50 cents up to a certain percentage. But maybe do the same for your kids. Let's say that they are on a commission base, like the person shared earlier, and you approach your child and say, hey, if you start saving, $10 a month, let's say, I will match dollar for dollar whatever you save up to a certain amount, or I will match 50 cents on the dollar up to a certain percent on whatever you save. You can be their 401k. You take their contribution. Let's say they save $5 a month, or let's say they save $10 a month. You've offered to match whatever it is they save dollar for dollar, and you put that $20 into a savings account, whether it's a high interest savings account, a certificate account, a 529 college savings plan, whatever you feel comfortable doing, but be their 401k plan for them. And you can see it can be very, very little, especially if your kid is like 12 years old or 13 years old and they're only making an allowance and it's 20 or 30 bucks a month, whatever it might be. Like, regardless of the amount, teach them this concept of saving money, especially towards a longer term goal, right away. Because by the time that they get to 30 or 40 and there's been continuous savings being done when they've worked their professional career, they're going to thank themselves, or they'll thank you rather, for instilling that in them. You want them to get comfortable with the concept of saving. You want them to get comfortable with paying themselves first before they spend their money. And you can help be that vehicle. So I challenge you to be your kid's 401k, even if they're at a very young age. As they get a little bit older, you still can do that, even if they're 16 or 17 and they're working a job where they're getting a few $100s per paycheck. If you're financially in a situation where you can do it, match their savings or encourage them to save their money in a savings account, in a higher interest yielding savings account. But again, have these conversations with them and encourage them to begin saving long-term for some of these goals. So as we kind of close out this webinar here, we've got 2 slides left. Let them make mistakes. Giving them small amounts of money provides them with a great opportunity to manage it. And if they make the wrong choice, it's not going to be such a detrimental situation or such a negative consequence. If they're receiving an allowance or a commission or whatever it is you want to call it, and they blow their money, their $30 or $40 or whatever it is right away, this opens up an opportunity for dialogue. Let them make those mistakes now when the consequences are minimal, versus getting to an age where they're actually making much larger consequences with, say, credit card debt or overspending, which we see all too common. So let them make mistakes. If they overspend on one week and they don't have money the next week to buy a toy or a video game or whatever it is, a great opportunity to have that conversation and stress the importance of budgeting at that age. So as we close out this presentation, make sure you keep the conversations going. continue to talk about the importance of finances, saving, budgeting, you name it, as long as you can. Just because they're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old doesn't mean you can't stop having those conversations. They're gonna, as they get older, they're gonna have new financial responsibilities. And with that comes new questions. A lot of us weren't taught this stuff in school. We've kind of, or by our parents, we've kind of just learned on our own, sometimes by mistakes. And we can help kind of be that change for this younger generation. I know I'm going to do everything in my power to instill some good habits in my daughter. And as life goes on, there's still going to be more questions that come up, like when they're buying a home or they're dealing with taxes. They may not be living with you anymore, but you better believe they're still going to pick up their phone, give you a call, and say, "Hey, mom, dad, like I'm gonna, what's a mortgage? Or I'm thinking of buying a home. How do I start that process? Or, I have a question on my taxes." These are the things that they're going to come to you for, even as they get a little bit older into their adult life. And you're always going to be that resource for them. So start now at a young age. And again, I think that as they get a little bit older, they're gonna really thank you and appreciate you for all the importance, or all the important information you've provided them. I want to open up to questions if there are any. I also wanted to be respectful of your time, so feel free to use the Q&A box with any questions here. I also want to share GreenPath Financial Wellness. They are a partner of Ceslox. If you're struggling with maybe any debt management, if you're looking for some further financial education, GreenPath is a great place to start. They can help answer any questions as it relates to, debt management plans and things of that nature. Lastly, I just wanted to say a big thank you for joining. I'm going to stick around here for a few more minutes and help answer any questions as they come up. But I greatly appreciate you joining this webinar today, especially on National Credit Union Youth Month. Again, feel free to stop by the branch. There's some really, really cool, fun activities happening at the branch, some fun giveaways. I know later this week I'll be dropping in on a branch with my daughter, just for her to take advantage of some of that fun stuff. So any questions, feel free to ask away. Again, I'll stick around here for a few minutes. That's a good question. I don't know of, the question was, are there any video games out there that may stress financial education? Admittedly, I don't know if I know the answer to that question. Let me do a quick search here. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head if there are any interactive games. I know it looks like, let's see. It looks like there's a few maybe apps out there. Yeah, it looks like there might be a few applications, or even if you do a quick Google search on like games for like financial education games for kids. There's one right here for grades 5 through 8, financial football. It mixes in financial literacy with, and football or even soccer. Lights, camera, budget. This game puts your child in the role of a movie producer. They'll be given $100 million budget to create a 5-star movie. Hit the Road. It's an Oregon Trail inspired game that takes you on a road trip across America. Learn the importance of saving and creating a budget, responsible spending, and money management. What's this? Let's see. I gotta find this website. I can include this in the email follow-up. I'll include links to a few of these games. I'll include a link to a few of these because this seems like, these seem like really fun activities. So I'll include a link in the email to the recording with some of these fun games. But that was a really great question. Oh, there's another comment here, maybe wealthyhabits.org. Let me check that out. This looks like it looks like a program for teens and preteens. Yeah, they have some online courses. Okay. That's not a bad one. But that was a great question. Yeah, I'll share a link. It's a website that has a link to all the interactive games. Good question again. Any other questions here? Last call, last call. All righty. Well, again, thank you so much for joining today's webinar. Keep an eye out for an email with a link to the recording. One last thing I want to mention, we offer these types of financial education presentations, webinars to employers here throughout the Central Coast. So if you work at a company that, maybe some employees can benefit from financial education, credit, budgeting, saving, you name it, no topic is off limits. If you work for a company that maybe they need financial education as part of their existing benefits, maybe it's a lunch and learn, maybe it's a tabling session, you name it, CESLOC offers those, free of charge. We just want to make sure that we're reminding the Central Coast that we're here to be a financial education resource. It's our firm belief that a more financially independent and more financially fit Central Coast makes this a better place. So again, send me an email. Let me pull back the slide, sorry, with my email address. Send me an email or follow up from the recording that I send. But we do offer these types of presentations to local employers as part of some of their existing benefits. We've done it at a few other companies here throughout the Central Coast, and we just want to make sure that we share that opportunity is available, it's complimentary, and it's really a great resource. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and end the webinar here. Thank you so much for joining. Hope to see you all at next month's presentation. We're going to be talking about elder fraud prevention, keeping you and your loved ones safe and your finances safe. So, okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you at the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Bye, everybody.